a lot of women use social media for sex or like to show off their booty.
I think filters can kind of do one of two things. I think it can enhance what you have, or it can completely transform you. On one hand, I like the idea of women getting financial freedom through avenues like OnlyFans because I think it's essential for their ability to choose. On the other hand, I think, platforms like that can really hurt your soul. I'm your host, Jamie Lynn, and I have a returning guest with me today. Seth, please tell me how to say your last name again, because I butcher it every time.
Lagana.
Lagana. Why do I always want to say Lagana?
So my family is very American.
Okay.
But it's a Sicilian word. I think it's Lagana.
You know I'm Sicilian, right?
Yeah. I think it's Lagana, but over time, just living in America, they made it Lagana.
Okay, that's probably why it doesn't compute in my brain. Because I want to say Lagana.
I think most people say Lagana because it is Italian.
Yeah.
So we can go with whatever. I don't really care.
That's
Lagana.
But Seth,
did you know what lagana means in Spanish?
It sounds like lasagna.
Eye booger.
Oh, that's nice. I won't forget that.
Yeah, don't use that. Don't use that. But,
well, Seth, you are back, and I'm so happy to have you here. For those of you that don't know, Seth has been personally training me for years.
Yeah.
Actually, had a whole body transformation with you about a year ago, and you helped me grow my booty and do all kinds of cool things. So
Jamie had an insane body transformation.
Yeah.
From I think
it's on your Instagram.
Less than a year.
Yeah.
Less than a year, but you killed it. Before we get started, I just want to say I'm so proud of you.
Oh.
So when she first started this, she was a little apprehensive about it, and she's gotten some judgment over the course of doing it. And I kept telling her, I was like, the judgment is good. Like, take it on. And the more judgment you get, the better. Use it as fuel. And you have, and I love this podcast. You're killing it.
Thank you.
You do a great job. I think you're raising questions and conversations that most women don't dare to bring up. Most people don't dare to talk about. And you're kind of reversing the role of what an intelligent woman could be in modernity. And I love it. I think you're killing it. And a message to all the haters out there. I really want you to know that your hate is really fueling her motivation.
It does.
It does. And it didn't at first, but now I think she's realizing
Bring on the hate, bitches.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Because I think a lot of you guys are just really misguided, very small-minded, and a little backwards.
Well, I love you and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time off camera, and so I just feel like you're
our these conversations go really well because we already talk about this shit.
I know, so it's like so you actually introduced today's topic.
Yeah.
So we were at the gym, and Seth, we kind of knew that we wanted to have you back for sure. And you introduced the idea of like Instagram and OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're going to be focused on today. But before we get into that, I want like a personal life update, like you're not single anymore,
No,
number one.
I've fallen in love, madly
You are in love,
yeah,
right?
And we've moved in with each other. She has a kid. I've met her kid. His name's Liam, which is
Isn't
funny.
that so funny?
And he's fucking adorable. I absolutely adore him. I love him. Everything's going really well. Look, I wanted to talk about this because I know you can empathize with this. You found the right person when you're finding new ways or new things to love about them as you progress in the relationship. And that's something I never had in other relationships,
Well, I'm just really happy that you're happy because I know what a good guy you are. I know how protective you are over women. I know your character, character is really important, right? And what you see is what you get with you, and that never changes. Like, you're a good guy off camera and on camera. You've been so encouraging to me too, doing this and just throughout. You're just a spring of positivity, and I love it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So yes, go ahead.
My relationship status right now, I plan on marrying her. We've talked about it.
Okay.
We want to have a family together.
Yeah. I feel like you'd be a great dad.
And I've never, ever been excited about that shit until now, which is wild. Like, I've always thought that I would just be, I don't know.
How did you guys meet?
She was training with another trainer at the gym, and she's very shy, very, very
Okay.
shy. And I've seen her, I saw her there for a while, and I was very attracted to her. And I went up to her when she was wearing headphones because she's always kind of hiding in her headphones, you know?
Yeah.
And I went up to her and I asked her, "What are you listening to?" You know? And
That's a
she's
great
like,
pickup
she told me what
line.
she's listening to, and I was like, "Oh, I love that." And then I started following her on Instagram, and I started just liking her stuff. And then slid into her DMs, and I gave her some compliments, and that's really all she wrote. I mean,
Yeah.
what you should do as a man is, if you're interested in a woman, is just be kind. You
Hmm.
know, that's the first thing. Be kind, and then be distant immediately afterwards. In the
Oh
sense that,
my
like, just be a smiley, kind person, and then just step away and see what
I
happens.
think what you're trying to say is like giving her the space to choose because
Yes.
some guys can maybe misinterpret that and like ghosting or distancing themselves to
No, I'm
try to
not
get a
saying that.
reaction.
No.
You're just saying
Plant the
wait for her
seed.
energy to move towards
Yeah,
you.
plant the seed and see what happens, you know?
I think that's solid advice.
Yeah, for sure. And
What was it that like attracted you to her?
she's not only
Besides, yeah.
I love how obviously she's very beautiful, and that's one thing that stood out, but she's not like other women, you know. She's very reserved, she's very kind. She's one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life, and that's including my own family, my own grandma. Since then I've introduced her to my family, and they
Okay.
absolutely love her. They love her. And you know what? My grandma has always been kind of hard on me with my past relationships. I could tell that she didn't believe in them, or
Hmm.
she questioned the validity of them. But when I introduced her to Audrey, she like immediately knew that she was the one. Like,
I
and she
just there's
expressed that.
I
So
just feel like people do know.
yeah,
And I just feel like there's just
I totally
a
agree.
flow to it, you
Yeah,
know?
I
There's no
totally
like
agree.
real force there. So
Yeah,
I love that. Now, we want to what she does for work kind of pertains to the topic.
right.
So she
We
does
can talk about that. She
OnlyFans.
does OnlyFans. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I wanted to kind of ask you some questions about OnlyFans because I feel like a lot of men would have issues with their significant other
Right.
doing OnlyFans, but that's not really an issue for you.
No, but also I've never really been a jealous person, you know?
Mhm.
A big reason why I trust her with her occupation is I know how much she loves me, you know? Like, I
Mhm.
see it on a day-to-day basis. She loves me more than any woman has ever loved me, you know? So, it's not a problem. It doesn't pose as a problem. I mean, you got to look at the benefits of this. She's making great money. She really
Mhm.
is. So she's completely financially stable. Um, and you know, she gets to work on her own time. You know, she makes her own hours. I've never had an issue with it. I don't, and I think a part of her kind of worries sometimes that I don't have an issue with it,
Mm.
as in that maybe I'm apathetic. You know, but it's
Well,
not
I
the
think
case.
I know I can understand where she's coming from because I hear that complaint a lot from women that have had really unhealthy relationships because they misinterpret control for care.
Right.
And so they feel like, well, unless somebody's on me about these things, that's a way that I measure their care or their
Exactly.
interest in me. And really, that's not a measure of care. There are many ways that men can show women care that aren't that. But a lot of women are not privy to that kind of information or they don't trust that kind of they don't trust that or they don't know how to read it. So they read it as disinterest.
Yeah, and there's a lot of men who are very insecure, very, very insecure.
Now,
And
is it just like, is it just I'm playing devil's advocate here,
yeah,
Is it like do you think it's a matter of insecurity or like preference? Because I hear this argument in the red pill community all the time where they're like, well, I'm not insecure. It's my preference that my girl doesn't go to a club. It's my preference that she doesn't do OnlyFans. It's my preference. It's not controlling. It's, my preference. What are your thoughts
I
on
mean, it's
that?
probably a little bit of both, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
probably a little bit of both. But I mean, what do you do against preference when you find someone you absolutely love? You
Mm.
know? At that point, I think you probably compromise a little bit, right? If you absolutely find someone you adore, you unconditionally love, but they're doing something you don't necessarily agree with, you know, are you going to try to change them? You know, are you going to try to shape them into the person you want them to be, or are you just forcing them to be someone that you want?
I think that's the key. I think that's the key is what you're saying is that you're actually giving her freedom.
Yeah,
And look, like, because you're okay with it, it's not a controlling behavior, you
Right.
know, because you're not limiting her freedom. But when you're imposing your beliefs, your values, telling somebody what they can and cannot do, that's not you setting boundaries. That's you violating somebody's freedom.
Right, right. And you're shaping someone into an image of your preferences, you
Yeah,
know?
and like, look, if you're dating somebody that does something that you're not okay with, well, all right, like, you can set boundaries and say, "Hey, I'm not okay with this." And then you wait to see what they do, and if they don't line up with you, then you let them off the hook. You let them go. You don't try to catch them and hold on to them.
Yeah, and who am I to like push those boundaries onto her and inhibit her from making a living, you know? Like she could do other things. I know she could. She's smart enough. But she makes a lot of money doing it, and it gives her a lot of freedom. And who am I to take that away from her? And to be honest with you, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me one
You know
bit.
why I don't think it bothers you?
Why?
Because she gives you a lot of safety and a lot of, like, reassurance.
A lot. Yeah.
I feel like if she and that's an important picture to paint because she's so into you, and, like, anybody can see that, right? Like, it radiates off of her, and, like, I've never even met her, and I know, like, you'll repost things that she posts, and she's just, like, doughy-eyed over you, and it's adorable, but I think it's because she lets people know where she stands with you. She's so proud of you, and you're so proud of her, that I think that creates a security blanket where these things don't bother you. Now, if that was lacking, do you think you might feel differently maybe?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I've been in previous relationships where the intimacy wasn't there, you know. Now, if those women were participating in OnlyFans, I probably feel very insecure.
Mm.
Also, in those previous relationships, some of them were doing atmosphere dating,
Mhm.
right? And maybe our intimacy levels weren't like up to my standard, and they would come home late at night drunk, and I became way more insecure then about that because there just wasn't a lot of affection in the relationship, you know. But
Mhm.
with Audrey, it's there's no lacking of intimacy or affection or like touch, all those things. It's a great relationship. It's the best relationship I've ever had. I hope I'm not offending any of my previous girlfriends, but it really is. I can't deny it. And you when you know. I've been telling you this since I met her. You kind of have a feeling that it's the right one. It's the right fit.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm. I'm really happy for you. I kind of want to. You had mentioned, like, when we were talking, like, at the gym, you're like, Instagram's kind of like the new porn.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, tell me, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what are you
Let's
seeing?
break it down objectively.
Okay.
Like, how do women um, advertise their OnlyFans? They do it mostly through social media.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a gateway, it's an outlet to a lot of porn, a lot of porn. Now, is that a problem? No, like I'm reaping the benefits, Audrey's reaping the benefits of it. So I understand that. But my problem with it is if we don't make those connections. I mean, not even just with OnlyFans, but a lot of women use social media um, for sex or like to show off their booty, or like fitness models are always showing off their butt and stuff like that. I have no issues with that. I don't have a problem with that. My issue is with the men who scour the internet all day looking at women who are in relationships. That's my issue with it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the problem. I think at that point, social media is really porn, and you're really your mind is wandering, and you're emotionally cheating on your girlfriend. You don't realize it. And the only reason I know that is because I've done it.
See, yeah, that's another thing that you said to me that I thought was really interesting because you told me that she didn't ask you to do this, but you took it upon yourself to unfollow a bunch of very beautiful, attractive, like, women on Instagram,
Right.
and you did that of your own accord.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of women feel really good when you're in a relationship with somebody to know that your dude isn't staring at a bunch of, like, half nude women,
Yeah.
right? But she didn't ask you to do that. Why did you decide to do that, and how did that come about?
So Since I've had Instagram over the years, especially when I was single, I would just follow beautiful women, you know?
But
And
why? I'm just curious why.
because it's like an outlet
It's
for,
like porn or
yeah,
like
to a certain extent.
like
I really associate porn in social media in the same breath. I really do. A lot of it is very, very similar. It's not very, you're not exposed, these women aren't exposing themselves like crazy. And like I said, let me rephrase. I don't have any issues with it. I have no moral defense against it, you know, but I think it poses an issue for men in relationships. If you are in a committed relationship and you're constantly looking at men, so if your search engine, right, go to your search engine and it shows you all these pages that you might like, right, in your search engine. If you're in a relationship and your search engine is just loaded with ass and women, dude, that's not good.
I
That's
always
not
say that
good.
you can tell a lot about a person by their feed.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
if I was single, ladies, and like I want to give anybody like dating advice, I'd look at a person's Instagram feed
Dude,
and
that's
find
a
out what they're up to.
perfect way to see
Yeah,
what their interests are,
good
what
screening.
they're looking
And look
at.
at their Instagram following.
Yes.
Like, I mean, this is a good idea to tell, like, this is a good idea to see where somebody's head is at,
Right.
you know, like, and this is a good way to see, like, are they, you know, relationship minded or are they just looking for some ass?
Yeah, what are they
You
putting their
know, it's a
attention
good way.
to?
Yeah, it's a good way to tell a fuckboy a mile away.
So I looked at mine recently, and it's funny because it's like mostly dudes, like ripped dudes
I feel like
working
yours would
out.
have a lot of like, I feel like this is what your Instagram feed would be: puppies,
Yeah, lots of puppies.
puppies,
Yeah,
lots of puppies,
yeah.
workout,
Yes, big time.
and more puppies.
Yeah, tons of rugby. I watch a lot of
Rugby,
rugby on
yeah.
Instagram. What else? Dumb memes, political stuff.
Yeah.
But I was looking through it, and it's mostly guys. And I showed that to Audrey, and you know what? She loved that.
But okay, so I got a little sidetracked. I want to get back to
So
you unfollowing.
why did I do
Yeah.
it? Because I don't want her to go through my Instagram and see that I'm following all these beautiful women. Now, let's go over why I follow a lot of beautiful women. Another reason why I follow a lot of beautiful women is because I am a trainer and I've trained thousands of people. And being a trainer in Las Vegas, you tend to train beautiful women. I've been training a lot of women in industry. I've trained a lot of beautiful women. Um, and if you go and look at who I'm following, it's a lot. It's a lot of women. I just didn't want her to see that
Mm-hmm.
anymore. You know, I don't want her to think that my mind is wandering because
Mm.
that's the last thing I want her to think. You know. So I went through and I started deleting. I have actually a funny story about after I unfollowed. So I went through and I looked at some of the girls that I follow, the people that I follow, and I started unfollowing people. And some of them are clients I just don't talk to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them I hadn't trained for a long time, maybe like 6 months, you know, and I unfollowed her. And shortly after that, she sent me a message and she was pretty upset that
Oh, wow.
yeah.
How do you even know? Like, I don't know if somebody unfollows
I don't
me.
know. I think there's an app that
Yeah.
people have, but I'm not that. What's the word? I
I'm
don't wanna
not that
be mean.
invested.
Yes. If you unfollow me or follow me, I really don't care.
Yeah.
But it about 10 or 5 years ago, if you'd have talked to me about social media and how important it is to me, like I would be like, this doesn't matter. But it does matter.
But
This
so
stuff
this
matters.
this person was really upset though that you unfollowed them.
Yes, so when I moved gyms, I sent her several messages telling her she had sessions still and that I didn't mind, you know, letting her train again, even though I hadn't spoken to her a long time. And she never responded. She never said anything to me. So I was like, okay, she's a beautiful girl. I don't want Audrey seeing that I follow this girl for no reason, you know? So I thought it would have been smarter if I just unfollowed her, and it backfired on me. It really did. I told Audrey about it and she laughed. She thought it was really funny. But I don't think that girl, and I don't want to name her name, realized why I unfollowed her. If she knew my intent, you know, I don't think she would have
I don't
gotten
think
so
she would
upset.
have been upset. I also don't think that it backfired on you.
No, it's
You know?
I didn't want to explain myself, but I told her I gave you a lot of chances to, you know, come in and do your sessions, and she just never responded. She didn't respond to my rebuttal. But yeah, this is also another topic about how people are fragile when it comes to social media, and they base a lot of their own life on the acceptance of others, and that's a whole nother topic. But I thought that was kind of fascinating. She was upset that I
Mm-hmm.
unfollowed her, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to explain why,
I know
but
social media can really be very like it can a lot of people's self-esteem is attached to the
attached,
validation,
completely
right?
attached.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And I look, I'm not saying I'm any better. I'm not. And before we even get into any of this, I'm not a therapist at all. These are just conversations that Jamie and I have together, and we have good conversations. That's about it. But
Well,
I'm
I
not a
think I
therapist at
like I
all.
like that you're very open and I like that you're
Yeah.
very transparent and I think that you're really insightful and we're just having a candid
Yeah,
conversation, right?
of course.
And
I
I
don't want
want
anyone to take what I say as, gospel. So, yeah,
well,
just leave it at
like
that. Leave it
it's
at
your
that.
life and it's your opinion and I think people want to hear it because a lot of people do struggle with this in relationships. Like I have a lot of women that come to me that have issues with their boyfriend following hot girls on Instagram. And I want to ask you this too, just to get kind of a male's perspective. Like, look, I know that if there's a dude that pops up on my Instagram and he's liking all my photos, he's doing it to get my attention.
Yeah, his intentions are
He's not
transparent.
trying to be my buddy.
Exactly.
Like, he's doing it to get my attention and he's seeing if I take the bait.
And
Now,
his
if I
girlfriend, he's telling
see
his girlfriend that, oh, she's just my friend.
I like what she's doing, da 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 da, or I've met her before or whatever.
Big
So
lies.
if I see somebody that I know, like if my boyfriend did that, if I have one of my girlfriend's boyfriend does that, like I don't think that's healthy behavior
No.
because you're doing that intentionally. And why on earth would you want to run the risk of losing your relationship, somebody that you love, if it makes them uncomfortable? Like I hear this, it's kind of a tricky thing because I hear common rebuttals of, well, that's controlling, right? Men will say that that's controlling. You shouldn't, da 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 da.
Is that more like gaslighting than
I
anything?
think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's
That's
more
a
like that. But
stretch.
what do you think about like dudes liking other girls' pictures and like vice versa? Women can do it too, right? But like, what do you think about that? Do you
So,
think that that's a form of cheating, or what do you think about
yes.
it?
Look, I have friends who are in very beautiful relationships, and I don't want to name his name, but he's a great guy. And this relationship I'm talking about, they've been together for a very long time, and she will send him pics of other beautiful women. Like they do it together. It's just like
Do they have
they
like an open relationship?
not necessarily, but they understand beauty and like they have enough integrity and willpower and
Yeah.
they don't she doesn't mind that he looks at other women and stuff like that. That's a rare case though. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very rare case. If you have a boyfriend and you've been together for a long time and you find out that he's looking at a bunch of women's asses on Instagram, if you don't feel a little hurt from that, I think something's wrong with that.
I feel like I agree. I think that people that are okay with that kind of stuff, I honestly, this is kind of sounds so unpopular, but if you're okay with somebody liking like another girl's picture and you're like in a relationship with them, I would seriously question your interest in them. Like what is your interest level? Is it high? Because it goes against a woman's nature to be cool with something like that.
Yeah,
Not to say that you're going to like act out, but like you would feel emotionally some type of way, like an emotional betrayal at the very least.
betrayal for sure. I'm gonna say this again. I don't think everybody is like that, and there are rare cases where the couple they have so much confidence in their relationship and they have so much trust that those types of things don't bother them. I know a lot of couples like that, but there are more on the other end of the spectrum where you have men in these relationships or women. I don't want to keep harping on men who their minds are wandering. They're emotionally cheating, and it at that point does Instagram become a problem for relationships? And I would say yes.
I
I would
think
say
Instagram is a big problem for relationships nowadays. I think
yeah,
it creates a lot of chaos in
for
relationships.
sure, for
I
sure.
feel like I feel like people also don't have an accurate representation of the value they bring to the relationship because of the validation they receive on Instagram.
I don't think a lot of people represent themselves accurately on Instagram
Well,
either.
true, but like if you're a hot girl, right, and you get a lot of likes, a girl can misperceive that as value that she adds to the relationship. When in turn, it's just a dude trying to F.
Yeah.
right? It's not somebody that's really like that serious about you, and women can misinterpret that,
Oh, for sure.
thinking, hey, I'm a high value woman. I'm going to sound really red pilly here, huh?
Well,
But
or
I
they
don't. But
misinterpret the value of the attention, or they misinterpret the attention for anything of value, you know?
hmm
So there's so many issues with social media. And I think a lot of modern psychologists are kind of delving into it right now. I mean, the issues with kids abusing social media, I think eventually we're gonna see Instagram turn into another form of addiction. And
well, there is in the DSM, there is a diagnosis for that now. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they are seeing social media playing a huge like decline in somebody's mental health. In fact, Meta is being sued.
I saw that, yeah,
Meta is being sued right now because they created an addictive culture around Instagram or whatever that
for
kids are having.
kids, yeah,
Neurologically, their brains are not they're not mentally or emotionally equipped to handle a lot of those things. And like honestly, I have an adult brain and I'm pretty sane, I'd like
yeah,
to think. And I mean even like social media is a beast, and even doing what I'm doing now, being more public, I tell you what, there have been things that have definitely rocked me at times where I'm just like, who I really need to check myself here. And I can't imagine being a younger teen with not a fully formed brain having to deal with the emotional chaos that is on social media. And you don't really have the wherewithal to make the difference between who is on the receiving end of that message and what they're going through and their intent behind it and your ability to manage it.
exactly, yeah. I think as we progress as a society, we're gonna start limiting kids' access to Instagram. I think that's a healthier alternative.
I definitely would want to if I had a kid, for sure.
And you know what? I don't know, because when I was going to college, that's when the first iPhone came out.
hmm
And when I was a junior in college.
You're really aging us,
Yeah.
Seth.
And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But kids now, they're raised with the iPhones in their hands at an early age, like 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
and they have access to social media at such a young age. I don't know how successful I would have been in life had I had Instagram at readily available to me 24/7 when I'm 7 years old. Like, I think it's stunting their growth. I mean, at least their mental, capacity, or their willingness to even become educated, or their willingness to even, I don't know, even succeed in life. I think it can halter a lot of development, but um, you can't necessarily put restraints on people on social media, can you? I don't know. That's weird.
Well, I think when you're young, you probably can. Just
Yeah,
like YouTube has an age restriction, I think Instagram would be wise to do something similar. Even Disney, you can control what your kids watch on TV I think that Instagram would be wise to do something like that, but they'd be losing a large portion of, their audience, which is probably why they don't want to do that.
yeah. I
Um, what do you think about like, is there a connection between, because I hear what you're saying as far as like Instagram being a way that women or men will promote their OnlyFans to gain revenue.
right.
What do you like? Is there a difference between that and women doing like Playboy or Penthouse or anything like that, or do you think they're all kind of the same?
I mean,
Because I think that with the magazines, there tends to be more of like a status or I've made it
right,
associated with it. What are
right.
what are your thoughts? Like, oh, I'm
So
published.
do you think maybe that like Maxim and Playboy is more tasteful?
I think Maxim's probably fairly tasteful.
Yeah,
And Playboy, I think had the reputation of being and look, I've been in magazines, so I'm not like knocking it, but here's something that people don't know about magazines. You used to get paid for being a model in a magazine. Nowadays, the models paid to be in the magazines, and they
yeah,
don't get anything in return.
yeah.
So
We
the
mutually know
value.
somebody.
So
I'm not gonna bring that up. I'm not gonna bring that up. But
So the value I think has changed, where it used to be very selective, and I think some magazines still do a good job upholding that. But I feel like nowadays the selectiveness or what you have to do or what you had to be like is now shifted dramatically. It's like, what can you pay me? And then this is now yours.
No, if it's an avenue for women to gain wealth, I'm all for that.
I'm not talking about the financial stability piece of it. I'm talking about the credibility of it and what it signifies or represents. I'm all for women having financial freedom, 100%. But they're like these avenues of beauty used to be more selective, I guess you could say.
Oh,
Whereas
so now it's like everyone has access to it.
Well, now it's like if you have enough money, you can get on these magazines, and so they don't represent what they used to, is I think what I'm trying to say.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, our beauty standards have changed too, and I'm pretty sure I know what your opinion is of this, but like the Sports Illustrated or Victoria's Secret introducing new lines for heavier women, and I'm not.
Well, they took it back.
Yeah, because
they took it back
a lot. It got a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
It got a lot of backlash. Because in order to be a Victoria's Secret model, you have to be fucking beautiful. Like, you're a 1 in a billion person, and to make it more inclusive, I think it kind of is a slap in the face to the concept of beauty in general. Not that I'm saying that plus size women aren't beautiful, but I'm saying it had its purpose in society, and it made its money off of this one theme, and just to go and change it seems a little odd, you know. And I think it's the inclusivity part of it was forced, and you kind of knew what their intentions were, you know.
Well, it's a tough call because I can understand both sides of it. Like, I think
me too.
I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think all body types should be appreciated. I think health should be prioritized over everything, though. I think we have to. I think that's something that's been lost a little bit, right? Like, with a little bit of the body positivity movement. Like,
yeah.
I think health is something that we need to take into account when we're promoting body positivity. But I can appreciate all body types, so I see what they're going. I see where they're going with it. But again, I think that I don't think that there's anything wrong with like if Vogue wants to have a look, Vogue can have that look. And if another magazine wants to have another look, fine, let that magazine have that look. But not everybody needs to be like each other.
Exactly. And I think once you start the inclusivity, once you start doing all that, you're kind of forcing it because you know that there's some sort of profit at the end of it.
Well, I feel like people are very easily offended nowadays, and I think people take things really personally.
You get this all the time. Men get very, very sensitive about some of the stuff that you say. It's very, very.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Look, since he's been doing this,
just read my comments.
I've been reading some of the stuff men say, and they're just so. They're so sensitive and insecure. It's so weird. I'm like, I don't speak for all men. I don't. But I just hope these guys, I mean, they're taking the time out of their day to throw some slander at you. It's pretty wild.
Well, they're not even good at it.
No,
my comebacks are hilarious.
Yeah.
If you want to be entertained, guys, just read my clapbacks. They're phenomenal.
Remember when you were in that fitness?
Oh my God, yeah, I was in fitness magazine.
That was one of the worst ones. That was one of the worst ones.
And
from women too.
You would think that I was saying something like crazy or hateful, but we got this it was an online fitness magazine.
Yeah.
Okay. Had posted a video that we had done, and I got so much criticism, not over the shape that I was in or anything like that. It was just I was ugly.
Yeah,
basically.
Dude, honestly, it made me really mad.
I know it did.
I wanted to go in and respond to every single comment
Yeah.
and just totally back you up, but then it's like, no, this is not going to help.
Well, no, and I don't read it the same way that you do. This is where my skills kind of can serve me, and I'm not I'm getting a lot better at it now. The longer I'm doing this, the least it affects me. There's still some things that are shocking to me, though. I will say that, but I look at those things and I was like, for you to ignore one, the positive message that we're trying to send, right? The hard work that I put into getting into this kind of shape,
you
right?
trained fucking hard.
Every day,
Yeah.
every day, sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And the diet and no drinking and no this and the sacrifice
Right.
and all those things. And it's just okay, ignore all of that because you don't like my lips.
Yeah. It's like, why are you putting her on here? She's got big lips. It's like, why does that fucking matter,
First
dude?
of all, I
Calm
wanted them to
down.
be this big. I actually paid for them to be this big, and I love them.
It has nothing to do with the fitness. It's
no,
crazy.
it's a technique called leveling. Just for those of you that don't know, I've talked about it on here before, but what it is this: leveling is actually really interesting, and that's when you get hate. It's usually because there's leveling going on. So people do one of two things, okay, when they're not feeling good about themselves. So they either, let's say I'm here, somebody perceives me as being here. Well, people like to be eye to eye with that. So they will do one of two things. They will bump you down to where they see themselves. Right. Somebody with low self-esteem is going to bump you down to where they see themselves. She's got big lips. She's ugly. She's da-da-da. That's because they don't feel good about themselves. Or they will bolster themselves up to where they see you. Well, I got this new car and I'm doing this and this is my hot girlfriend and here's my Rolex and let me drop my money on the table and I got a black card, right? Like leveling. It's because people want to be eye to eye with you. So I can look at those things pretty objectively. And when I can objectively look at something, I don't personalize it. I see it as a manipulation and I read it as that. And it's very easy to let things like that roll off my shoulders.
It kind of goes into consideration with what I think, especially with the leveling thing. I feel like when people do that, they just want attention. So they want you to see them.
There is a personality type that's, again, fairly easy to read, where they just say something because they want an emotional reaction out of you.
Right.
People say things that they know are not true. They just want to see if you take the bait.
Right.
And if they've got an emotional reaction out of you, then they're satisfied. And you know why? That's their only joy.
Yeah.
That's it. There are full-time trolls online where that is just kind of what they do. And that makes me really sad. And there's got to be some mental health stuff, behind that. And I certainly don't want to slam them, but I do want people to be aware that you really can't, like, the internet is not real. What you're getting on there is not real. So do not take it personally.
People are so hateful, man. It's wild.
It's scary.
So do you remember my client, Casey O'Neill, that I trained, the UFC fighter?
Yes.
Female fighter?
Yeah, she was such a badass.
Shit. She still is a badass.
Yeah.
And she's still fighting, and she's doing amazing things. I absolutely adore her. She's killing it. She gets a lot of hate from random men all across the country. I hate it. I don't know where it's coming from. They don't even know this girl, but they have an opinion of her. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that love Casey, and for good reason, but it's just crazy to see some of these comments. Like, men can just like try to rip her to pieces. I'm like, what's the purpose of this, man? Like, what are you trying to gain out of this? It's so wild to me. To get time out of your day to just try to rip someone in a new one, it seems so childish to me. I don't know. That type of shit's not for me. I hate it. Mm-hmm. But I think you and I are in the same boat in that we're just not those types of people,
I never once in my life have I ever taken time out of my day to say something about there has never been anything that I have seen on social media that has created such a strong visceral reaction inside myself where I have to do something to somebody.
Where you have to do the leveling. Yeah.
Never. I've never had to do that. And first of all, I'm too fucking busy. I don't have the time.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. I don't know. I don't get it. But here's another issue with social media. I mean, altogether, we can say that social media is bad for relationships, right? We can both agree with that.
I don't know if I can't use an absolute like that, because I think that there are some positives to social media for sure. I really do. I don't think it's all bad. I think it's how you manage it and the use of it. And I think that when you're in relationships and you have social media, there needs to be some boundaries. Like, there has to be clear boundaries for both people, because it is a breeding ground for disaster if you don't have that.
So what do you think about people? This is an interesting question. What do you think about people who are in relationships, right? And they are constantly posting about how much they love each other.
Like me?
No. No.
Are you calling me out?
You know the types I'm talking about. And then like a year goes by and all those posts are deleted. And
so I will tell you this.
Different.
I think I actually talked about this a little bit ago.
Do you think that's healthy?
I don't think it's real a lot of times. Like, I think that there are people, oh God, can't you just see a fake couple a mile away? I feel like I can.
That's so hard nowadays.
Oh, not for me, man. Not for me. Not for me. But I guess I have a different kind of vantage point. I have a lot of people that I see for couples, and I know the inner workings of those relationships. I also hear a lot doing what I do. And so I know these couples that are together, right, that just broke up a week ago, or she just unblocked him on Instagram. And you know, you see them out and they're like, ha, ha, ha. And you just know it's so fake, right? You just, you know it is. And you know that there's a time limit on that relationship. But, you know, they think the world doesn't know and the world can't see it. It can. It's easy to read.
Anytime anyone posts about how much, you know, if it's a lot of posts, right? I'm just always expecting that after a year that these posts are going to stop.
Well, do you think that people that do that are trying to send a message?
Maybe to a past relationship.
You think so? Do you think that there's like an ulterior motive for doing that?
Oh, for sure.
I feel like I do
healthy.
too. I feel like it's, see, I'm happy. I'm happy now.
My friends who have the best relationships, they never post about each other.
Really?
They never do.
But you know what? Like, I'm on the fence about that because Liam and I do post a lot.
I think you guys don't post stuff that's like forced, you know? You're not like, this like long...
oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like when they're saying like how much they love. I can't believe I ever met this person.
Okay, yes, I totally am on board with you. Okay, there was this one post that I read, and I knew this couple had like major issues, right? And like to me, it sounded like she made him write it.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, did he really write this, or was this her making him write it?
One of the guys I don't want to say. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. But anytime he got in trouble with his wife, you would know, because he'd write this post where he'd be like, I love her, I can't believe I met her, she's the world to me, blah blah blah. But I knew when he made those posts, it was because he was in the doghouse, you know, and he thought it was a way to.
Well, that's actually a defense mechanism called undoing.
Yeah.
So
it's not healthy, man.
Yeah.
Here's another issue with social media, I think.
Now, look, like I'm totally on board with you. I see where you're going with that. And I do think that when you see these long, like drawn out posts or confessions of love, it's usually because you're in the honeymoon phase of the cycle of abuse. Like that's very common. And the reconciliation phase, and you're doing something to make up so that somebody kind of lets you back in. But also, I feel like what a lot of people post, especially when they're those constant lovey-dovey posts, is not for that person. It's for the person watching. It's for the audience. It's for their ex. It's for their ex to try to incite jealousy. It's for everybody that's just like, see, I'm happy now. It's because they have something to prove, and it's not even for that person.
I totally agree. It's not for that person. Or if it is for that person, it's to get out of some mess. I definitely agree.
And it's sad because that other person doesn't know.
No.
Doesn't know. But I feel like people that I'm privy to like so much information because of like what I do, you know, and I feel like I know the backstories to a lot of like relationships. So when I see these things happen, I'm just like, okay, that's what that is. Yeah. You know.
So it's easy for you to scope out.
Not everything is easy. Like obviously there's something, like I don't know everything about everybody, but I do know some common traits of relationships. I do know cycles. I do know I do feel like I have a very sensitive bullshit meter. Right. And I can sense the bullshit a mile away. I know that when like here's a dead giveaway a lot of times. When women just overdo it with their laughter, right? They're acting extra happy. Like that to me is usually a thing where it's just like, you're not laughing because somebody like made a really funny joke. You're laughing because you want some person to hear it, and you're putting on a show.
So Audrey and I went to this comedy show. We went and saw Theo Von. I don't know if you know Theo Von.
I do. Was he on The Real World, right?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah. So we're sitting next to this guy. He's on a first date. I'm just overhearing their conversation, and this guy's getting blasted drunk. He's just so drunk. And he just starts laughing, right? And there's not even a joke being made. There's no jokes, and he's just laughing. And I know he's doing it because he's unsure that she finds him funny, right? So he's it was so cringy, man. It was, and Audrey and I were just looking at each other the whole time, just like, God, this is so embarrassing.
See, but that's like, isn't that interesting that we can read that? See, people think other people are dumb.
It was so obvious.
But people think other people are dumb. But how do we? Like that gets lost in translation, right? Picking up on things like that gets lost in translation, and everybody thinks they're pulling the wool over people's eyes when, you know, when you're a human being, you're like, yeah, that ain't real, you know?
Dude, he had probably like maybe 8 drinks, and
Yeah.
the laughter got worse. It got worse and worse and worse, and I had to say something to him. I had to tell him like, "Hey, dude, calm
How did you
down."
respond to that?
He appreciated it, you know, because I don't think he realized he was acting like an ass.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. People around me were
I
like,
wonder if they got a
"What the
second
fuck?"
date.
Then I heard some guy was like, "Dude, shut the fuck up."
Oh
Like, it
no.
got embarrassing, and I had to like, I touched him. I was like, "Dude, you calm down, man." Like, like I told him to shush several times, and then afterwards he apologized. I was like, "Damn, dude, that's."
Hmm.
But you're right. The laughter over nothing is embarrassing. It's cringy.
I see so much cringy stuff, you know, and people think that they're pulling the wool over other people's eyes, but man, just give it time.
Yeah,
Time will tell.
yeah. I don't know what happened to them, but I hope she didn't go on another date with that guy.
I doubt he got a second date.
No, there's no
If
way.
everybody else is seeing it, she was probably
She
like,
apologized to me too.
really? Then I
Yeah.
highly doubt she went out with him again.
No, I don't
Poor
know.
guy.
Dude, it kind of ruined the show for us.
It's
It's
got to be.
weird.
It's like it's tough being a guy doing the whole date asking and taking out and entertain. Like that's hard.
Afterwards I kind of felt bad for the guy because you could just tell he just hadn't gone on a lot of dates,
Yeah.
But it was so cringy. It was very embarrassing. It was a very you ever see somebody do something that embarrasses you? Like,
Yeah.
they,
Like
yes,
I can't watch. Yeah.
yeah, dude, that's what it was like.
Mm.
It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. But I thought it's pretty fascinating though, like on a psychological level.
Well, this is like I know I'm constantly doing, but this is just how my brain thinks. You know, I'm constantly evaluating stuff like this. I don't think normally. I don't.
See, I feel like you have an upper advantage over other people because this is like your life. Like as a therapist, you can kind of read people and interpret people for who they really are over most people.
I think I have a vantage point for sure.
For
I do.
sure.
I do think I have a vantage point, but beyond what I learned in school, it's just what you sense and what you know.
Right.
You know, a lot of people out here are faking the funk, and they're projecting an image of what they want you to see. And I feel real, recognize real, like Tupac said. And I think that you know when you're around a genuine relationship, and you know when you're around a chaotic one that's
Yeah.
presenting like everything's fine.
Yeah, and this goes back to social media, right? Where social media is a lot of people misrepresenting themselves. It's a lot of people. And I see it all the time. A lot of it is with women too, like with the filters and you know, a lot of them don't look like they look in real life, and that's fine. That's completely fine. I'm not going to judge you on based on how you look, but the misrepresentation part is a little alarming, right? If I'm about to date you and I only meet you on Instagram and then I meet you in real life and you're a completely different person, that's kind of like catfishing,
Well,
right?
you know, a lot of, I love a good filter. I'm not gonna lie, but
You do.
I
Remember
do.
when you put filters on our videos and
Yeah,
it would show
I
me
have
and
fucking switched to you.
my lips would that was so funny. And I was like, you know what, just keep it. Just keep it. My
Stop.
lips look great.
I stopped doing that. I actually stopped using them fairly recently. I still do some here and there,
Jamie,
but
you
I
don't
actually
need it, dude. You don't
look
need it.
like you know, people that there's a big argument that's just like, oh well, if you do this, you're, you know, like you don't like yourself or whatever, and it's like not really the case. Like I think filters can kind of do one of two things. I think it can enhance what you have, or it can completely transform you. And I think that it can become really problematic when, you know, women or men are doing the transformation route where they're they're stepping so far away of what they look like in real life that
Yes.
there's a, you know, where they no longer look like themselves, right? I think that that can be problematic for sure. But then you know, on the flip side, I'm not anti-filter also, where I think that you can use these things to really beautify a picture, or, you know, you smooth out your skin or whatever. And it just enhances what you already have. And I'm on board with that side of it, 100%.
So have you heard of the guy Goob
No,
on Instagram?
no.
This guy's amazing, and I love his IG. He finds fitness celebrities or
Okay.
influencers who've made lots of money selling workout programs, who Photoshop all of their photos.
Oh.
So it's very disingenuous,
Oh my God, I need
right?
to follow this guy.
Oh,
That's so
he's
interesting to
great. He's
me.
great, and he's like so objective, and he's no slouch. Like the guy, he lifts and he's a coach himself, and he is so good at recognizing when people are misrepresenting themselves. And he will call them out. And I'm not talking about just like people who have like 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers. He calls out people like women who have millions of followers and they don't respond very well to it.
Well, I
Most of
wouldn't
them
think that they
lie.
would.
Most of them lie. I think it'd be interesting if you got him on your podcast to talk
You know what?
about
I've
this.
never heard of him, but I would,
It
that sounds
opens up
really
so many
interesting.
doors, psychological doors, and like how people respond to judgment or when they know they're doing something, I don't know, incorrectly, right? Or it's pretty amoral to sell any product, with any misrepresentation. I don't know. It's pretty fascinating stuff. And 99% of the time, the person either denies it or gets extremely aggressive, like to the point where they want to sue him.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, you can't sue the guy
Yeah.
for finding, flaws in your
Yeah.
shit. Like, it's open to the public. You're obviously doing it, and some of these Photoshops are crazy. Like they make their waist, they snatch their waist so tiny and it's so completely obvious. But to the untrained eye, you give the person the benefit of the doubt, especially if they're in the fitness industry. So you would just never think, and he has done it to some of my favorite influencers, fitfluencers. He's done it to some people who I know, and a part of me wants to like stick up for them, and then I'm like, no, he's fucking right. Like, why are you selling a workout booty program and you're making your glutes look bigger on Instagram? It's fucked up, dude.
Yeah, I did see this one where this one fitness influencer got called out and it showed her taking butt pads out of her.
Yeah.
And that was shocking to me. I was like, was that real? Like, was she really doing
Look,
that?
if the person is completely transparent about it, and what if he hits him up and he's like, hey, I noticed that you're photoshopping your photos. And she was like, yeah, I do it. And I tell my clients about it. I tell everybody about it. If at that point, then look, go for it. Like, it's just a filter at that point, right? But to sell products claiming that, oh, my programming did this to me and I want to make and you profit off of it, that's morally unjust. It just is. And also one thing that's crazy is trainers will do this. So he's finding trainers too who will show before and after pictures, right? And he will Photoshop the after.
Oh, wow.
Which is fucked up. That's fucked up. So you're basically
that's because that's
snake
false
oil
advertisement for sure.
He's like basically becomes a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
So I hope Goob sees this. I love what he's doing.
I'm gonna look this guy up. For sure.
He's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And every time he posts, it's very addictive. You can look at all of his posts for hours. He does a great job at what he does. And he also does he goes after sexual predators and stuff like that.
That sounds
that
like
one's
my
the best.
jam.
That one's the best. Nothing's better than seeing a sexual predator go down. Like child molesters.
You know,
and
I used
shit
to
like-
work with sex offenders, right?
Oh, that's rough, dude. That's rough. You're very patient.
ran group. No, I really wasn't, but
No?
that's probably why I didn't do it for very long.
Talk about this. This is insane to
Yeah.
me. Like, so did you were forced to be around them to rehabilitate them, or?
So when I first moved here, I was doing a bunch of things. I was working with girls that had been sex trafficked, and then I had to make them mental. I did a bunch of things. I started some programs for Vegas as well, but I ran a group for about 3 months with convicted sex offenders.
Yikes.
And they had to do therapy as part of their rehabilitation. So they were on parole. And that was really difficult because they'll test you as well, like in group. They'll test you. Like I remember, this is going to sound really minor, but this is a violation of boundaries, and you have to be really quick-witted to catch stuff like this. I remember I had a hair on me, or like on my leg right here, and I was, obviously sitting next to somebody, and he reached over and he touched it and he grabbed it, and I had to obviously address that, but that's. And when another thing that I noticed working with sex offenders is they always came across as the protective figure
Oh
when
yeah.
I was there, and I thought that that was incredibly interesting psychologically for me.
Were they like overly kind too?
Some of them really were, and some of them I believe had made some progress, and some where it was really difficult because some were just blatantly in their delusion. Where
Really?
yes,
Like
like
they didn't think anything was wrong with it.
I will never forget what one person told me when I was challenged because I had to challenge them on their offenses, you
Right.
know. And I remember you might have to like trigger warning everybody. So just, I'm going to say something that people probably don't want to hear. So tune out if you don't want to, if you're worried about this. But um, I remember after reading the offense, he had essayed an 8-year-old girl living in the home, right? It was his girlfriend's daughter. And when I was challenging him about it, his excuse was this: well, she was the woman of the house. She was doing, her mom wasn't here, so she would cook and she would this and hearing that, it's hard to
She was
penetrate that
eight
wall.
eight
She was
years
8,
old.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
and so I had to deal with that among a lot of other things. I remember I went toe to toe with a pimp one time, and that was it's tough. Like you have to have some thick skin to do that, right? Like to
Oh man, we could talk about this for hours. This is so fascinating.
yeah, I haven't really talked too much about my time doing that, but
Really?
yeah,
Why not?
I didn't do it for very long. I wasn't an expert in it, and it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me. I much preferred to work with victims, and I knew that that was kind of my place. So that's kind of what I focused on.
Was it hard? It was hard.
For me, yeah, it was very hard. It was very difficult for me to be non-judgmental. I was in therapy, we're human beings, so there are things that we're trained in as far as like transference, whereas sometimes you can be triggered by what somebody says, and it's important to get your own consult when that happens, and to again, you cannot take that out on the person. You still need to provide some safety for them and to help them work through whatever they're working on. And I did my best to do that, but I recognize that I needed to take myself out of that
So
situation.
maybe you're a little too biased.
I did not respond biasly towards them. I will say that, but I did not like what was going on and did not want to be around it.
I don't know who does. And
Yeah.
if you're out there and you do that for a profession, you might be one of the most patient people on earth.
It was, I, I was, there was a amazing clinician who was also doing that, and he was phenomenal with them. He did a wonderful job with them, way better than
Do
I
you
did.
think there's any possibility that those types of people can function in society and you know be completely rehabilitated, or do you think most of them are sociopaths?
I case by case basis, I believe in rehabilitation. I believe that people can heal, and I believe that people can change, and I believe everybody's capable of it. I think it's just maybe not everybody applies it.
So I think I agree with you, but I think it's hard if even if you did get rehabilitated and you committed those offenses, I think it would be very hard for you to convince other people around you that you're rehabilitated. And I think there's a
Yeah.
that would I mean, you have to as a sexual offender, don't you have to like go and knock on people's doors and tell them that you're a sex
Yeah, like
offender
I
and
mean, Nevada's laws have changed a little bit. Like they had tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 laws and stuff like that, and that was mandated that they had to attend psychotherapy, and they don't anymore actually. But I think that it's still like 1,000 feet from a school and some things like that, that they have to do. And there's like an app actually that people can get on your phone. When I was working the group, I would use it all the time. That shows you where the registered SA offenders are.
does it in the registry does it show you like what tiers of sexual offenses? It just
I don't think it shows you the tiers, and here's the flip side of that. Like some people that are registered SA, like their offenses are not to the degree that I'm talking about today.
yeah, you can
You
get
know,
that for like peeing in public and stuff, right?
I don't know necessarily if you can get it for that. I don't think that that would be considered SA, stuff. But I think I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this too much.
Okay.
But yeah, hmm
I'll ask you about this outside of here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
I
be
can't believe
careful
you
with
did that.
this.
I didn't know you did
Yeah,
that.
I did that. I did a bunch of stuff. Going into the jails was one of the things that I loved, though. Loved that.
Yeah, that's great.
That
You
was my
spoke to
fave.
women in jails?
Yeah, they were minors still for the
Oh
most. But
shit.
well, for the most part. But I would go to them and I would run. They had been sex trafficked, and so I would run group for them every Thursday, and I'd
That
go
sounds
into the
awesome.
jail and do that there, and I loved it, loved them.
All right, we'll talk about this after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, let's kind of we don't have too much time left, but
No worries.
let's kind of get back to OnlyFans, and I'm gonna kind of. I think when we're having this discussion, it's important to say that we're not judging people that do OnlyFans.
No, not at
Okay,
all. No.
we're just merely trying to have a discussion about, hey, what are some positives, what are some negatives, and so I mean, like, let's have an open dialogue about it, right? And I will say this, like, I think OnlyFans can be. I think in some ways it can be really empowering for women, especially financially,
Yeah, big time.
and but that comes at a cost.
Yeah,
It comes at a cost.
for sure. But you have to be willing to compromise with that cost
Yeah.
fully. And if you can't, then you just shouldn't do it. But also, I think it puts a lot of women out of harm's way. And what I mean by that is, say for instance, these women are strippers, and they're working a lot and they're out all night, and maybe some of them are drinking. And because a lot of strippers I know, a lot of them, I train a lot of strippers, they don't make as much money if they don't drink. And
Mm.
this is a common theme for most strippers. Now, there are strippers who work and they're completely sober. I train a couple of them, but most of them feel as if they need to drink in order to make money.
Mm.
Imagine you have to go to work and you have to drink with other men who are drinking, and
Mhm.
in order to feel as if you can make money, like in order to survive. That's insane to me. Now, if an OnlyFans girl doesn't have to do that, she can make her money in the privacy of her own home. She doesn't have a pimp. She is self-sufficient in that regard, and I love that. I absolutely love that. Look, I'm not against sex workers at all. I mean, let's face it. The only reason internet is so big is because of porno. That's
Mhm.
why the internet was developed, is because of porno. So now we have all these things because of porno. If you think of it, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's true. The internet was developed really for porno, and sex workers are a huge part of our community, no matter what we think. And if women can self-sufficiently make money without putting themselves in harm's way, I absolutely love it. I think they should do it, and I don't have anything against it morally, and I don't think anybody should. But there are problems with it to a certain extent. I think you should probably talk about this. Where do you think the problems are with certain parts of OnlyFans?
Like, I used to think my theory on this has kind of changed because I used to think that nobody would sign up for sex work. But I had a pretty limited view because I was working in this a sex trafficking field. So I
Right,
was only seeing things by force. So it kind of colored how I viewed things. Since being in Vegas, that's really changed my perception of sex work.
right.
And I do think that there is more choice involved now than there ever has before. Whereas before, I thought that the choice had been completely removed for women. Like, who would sign up for that, right? So I think, like, on the one hand, I like the idea of women getting financial freedom through avenues like OnlyFans because I think it's essential for their ability to choose. On the other hand, you know, I think platforms like that I think platforms like that can really hurt your soul. I really do. I think it can, and I think it can cause a lot of destructions in relationships. Not every relationship, but most relationships aren't equipped for that. And I think it can introduce a lot of fear and a lot of jealousy
Yeah.
in relationships. So I can see those things being problematic. And then there's the whole, like the idea of putting yourself up for sale never sits well with me.
I understand that.
And
Yeah.
that's not a knock on anybody that chooses to do that, but I think at some point that messes with the person's self-concept.
Do you think there's amount of money that can, I don't know, mask those
No,
feelings?
not
No?
at all. No, I think what you'll get is I think that you'll get temporary relief and temporary gratification. And I'm not saying like, look, if you're in a survival situation, 100% do it. If you need to survive and that's a way that you can survive, oh yeah, you do it. But if you don't need to survive, then it puts you in a different state mentally where those things can really kind of corrupt your soul. It can really kind of take a piece of you. And I think that when you're putting, I think that like I'm all for somebody being sexy online. I don't see a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But again, I guess everybody has their own personal boundaries and limitations. And I think when you're putting all of you out there, um, it can create a lot of problems for yourself mentally and emotionally. Like, how many girls do sex work and have drug and alcohol problems?
A lot of strippers do too. A lot of them do.
You know, and they're doing that often. And look, I work with a lot of girls that do that. And I will tell you this, some, girls that have, will dance for a living, and girls that do OnlyFans for a living, even porn stars, many of them I've had as my clients. They're some of the most beautiful souls I've ever met in my life. They're some of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. But they are broken, and they've had to numb themselves with drug and alcohol to continue to perform that line of work. Now, if you have to go down that route, of course that's doing something to your soul. And that's important for you to take a look at. No judgment. But like you got to be really honest with yourself about, does it affect you?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible for some women to do it without any regard to how they feel. They just see the money
Mm-hmm.
and they're living a good life, and it doesn't affect them. I think there's a bunch of camps for this.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be one thing, but are there people that can do it and it not affect them? Yeah, I definitely think that it's possible. Can do a lot of people who do it feel as if society at large will judge them? Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them do. A lot of them feel really insecure about it. Um, I don't know. That's a hard question. But I don't think all women feel as if they are. I don't know that they're doing something wrong.
I don't think they do either. And I
No.
think I think women can be empowered by it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I like the financial freedom aspect of it for women, that they have more choice now than they've had for than ever over their sexuality, over what they like. I like that we've removed the pimp from it, right? And it's just like, dude, if you're gonna do it, you should get paid all of it, right? Why are you gonna split it with somebody?
Right.
Like that to me, like I understand it, right? But yeah, like it's a loaded topic, right? And
For
we're just
sure.
kind of we're just kind of tipping the iceberg here.
And I'm really close to this right
Mm-hmm.
now, and a part of me wants to be biased and be like, it's possible for people in love to have a significant other that's involved in OnlyFans because it's happening right now with me. But I do agree with you. There's some people out there that probably do it and they are a little broken and they know that this is their only outlet for wealth, and maybe they feel
See,
pretty
but that's
insecure
the
about it.
that's the survival thing that
Yeah,
I'm talking. Like when you're doing it for survival, it just hits different, I think.
yeah,
One of my really good friends does it with her partner, actually, and they seem to be doing just fine.
yeah.
And again, not here to judge somebody that chooses to do that or not. And it's really kind of up to the couple, but people at the end of the day just have to be aware of what the risks and the benefits are and make a decision from there. And I think if you have healthy communication, if you can set some healthy boundaries, I think that's a good starting point if you're choosing to do something like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and they should definitely consult with themselves
You got to
or their
be
lovers.
honest with yourself, and
Yeah,
nobody should ever feel pressured to do something like that either, right?
no,
Like
no, no.
that's if anybody, male, female, is being pressured to do something like that, like, you know, because a lot of girls can get roped into trafficking that way. Like Andrew Tate was doing that a lot. Like
Really?
that's the hearsay, right? Where
Mm,
he's just like, you need to do this for me, like forcing them to go on OnlyFans and do things like that, right? Like some coercion. So
oh,
that's never
weird.
very healthy.
Well, like like you said, it can be very problematic. It's not for me in my relationship. We've discussed it multiple times, and before we got together, she asked me if it was an issue, and it never has been for us, but maybe we're just a rare case. Also, she's not doing crazy stuff on OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are very, I don't know, they're doing some pretty wild things on OnlyFans, and that's really fine. But there's also some people who are doing some tasteful things on OnlyFans. So I don't want people to get this confused for the other. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. There's a large amount of them that I'm sure that they're using this for survival. And who are we to take that away from them?
Yeah, I'm not. I'll be the first. Like, if I, like, I'm not one to judge somebody on that. I think, but like survival, I want you to kind of look at it like this. And here's a good way to tell if it's an actual choice, okay? If you have, it's my own theory actually, and I call it true choice. And I actually developed this when I was working with girls that had been sex trafficked because it was really hard for them to wrap their minds around like what they were doing and all this stuff. And I was like, look, like if there's fear, like imminent fear, like life or death, that removes your ability to choose. Okay. If there's, manipulation, like you don't have all the information, that removes your ability to choose. If there's dependency, that removes your ability to choose. If there's intimidation, that removes your ability to choose. And then, the fifth one is if you don't have a lot of options and like viable options, like good options, that means I'm choosing between a good thing and a good thing. Then again, then these are not choices. What you're doing is survival. And I think a lot of people, a lot of women or men that are in sex work are in like have those things happening, which would not really make it choice. It would make it fall into more survival. And that was really kind of my foundation when I would talk about sex work and stuff like that. A lot of empathy for women that have done that. But I've also seen the flip side of it now being in Vegas where I'm like, okay, I do think that some people are doing it for choice.
Yeah, I mean, and the access to money is just wild. Like how
Yeah,
much
like
people are making, it's
it's
pretty
really hard.
absurd.
It's really hard to turn that down, right?
Well, you can go to school and become a doctor or an attorney and still not make nearly as much as some of these women
Oh
are.
yeah.
It's wild.
Oh, like no
I
doubt
think
about
that
it.
changes people's motivation pretty easy. But some
Yeah.
people are definitely using it for survival. And so, how did people respond? I guess they're clients, or not necessarily clients, patients, right? How did they respond to that when you told them that about like the?
My girls, the girls that I worked with they responded really positively because they had felt like this was their fault and they had felt like it was something that they chose because they had been so groomed to believe that they wanted this.
Yeah,
And
don't you think
so
a lot of them are kind of a byproduct of their environment too? Like limited access to, I don't know, education, limited access to
I
resources
think what
or
they were
finances or a good family and stuff like that.
I think what they were really limited to was love, and somebody came along and offered them some false hope, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, and
That's definitely true.
it's sad because there's a lot of that out there, but that creates their vulnerability and receptivity to something like that. It's not something that they're actually choosing. What they're choosing is love. They're not choosing that, you know.
Right, right.
So, but look, heavy topic, guys, and
Yeah.
we certainly can't do
This
it
is
all
the shit that
justice
we talk
now.
about at the gym.
I know, but like, we're just trying like
Just trying to make sense of all this, and we're not judging anybody.
it's a candid conversation to have, and they're hard topics, right? And
Yeah,
we're not gonna solve the world with this conversation today.
no.
But I hope that it gets kind of, the brain turning, and again, I hope that it offers some different perspectives, like we don't 100% agree on things, but neither one of us is attacking the other person, belittling the other person, or judging the other person. And I think that's an important thing to model when you have conversations like this.
I think it should be said with Jamie's podcast, and a lot of you guys need to understand this, is she's just raising questions. She's raising a conversation. She's not trying to go to war with anybody. She might have her opinions, but she just wants to have a discussion, and bring it up because a lot of this stuff is taboo and people get afraid to talk about this stuff. So your response to this shouldn't be aggression. Have an opinion and you can formulate it all you want, but just try not to attack her. That's what
I love that
kills
he's
me.
over here trying to like protect me.
I
I'm
hate
fine,
it.
guys.
Trust me, I hate
Like-
it. I see it so much of it. I see so much of it. Me and Liam talk
I feel
about
like you're
this.
bothered by it more than I am. Like it's like a
But
plea
I
to my
remember
audience.
I did tell you that use it as fuel, and the more judgment you get, the more people are watching, right?
Yeah.
And the more people are listening to what you say. If they even if they don't fucking agree with you at all, at least they're listening to what you're saying, and that's huge. That's a I don't know. And you're raising interesting topics up, and you're forcing a conversation, and that's amazing. That's great. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Seth. Well, we are going to have to kind of wrap up here for today.
That's perfect.
But,
That's totally fine.
you know, I want to thank you so much for coming on again. I think your insight's very valuable. I love that you're so transparent and vulnerable, and you opened up too about, you know, your life. And I think that's takes such courage and strength to do that. And I know that you're in a happy relationship, and I'm so happy that you're happy because you're such a good guy and you deserve to be treated and loved the way that you are. And I know that she does. And I know that you're really,
I appreciate
you know.
that. I appreciate that. You're in a great relationship too. I love you.
I know you guys have a bromance.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Well, Seth, tell everybody where they can find you.
At the gym.
What gyms are you at? Like,
oh, so I was at Omalta Fitness, and I had a great run there. I had a great career. I love Ian, and I wish him the best. But I moved on. I'm at a gym called Sin City Iron now, and I also train at Fit Club at night. That's where I see you. I love both of these gyms. They're different gyms. You know, one's more of like a powerlifting, strength training gym, and one's more for like hypertrophy training and bodybuilding. And they're different gyms, but I love them both. You know, that's why I couldn't leave one or the other. So that's why I'm training at two gyms now. So if you want to catch me, my Instagram is Seth Lagana, and come train. I've been doing it for almost two decades now, and I absolutely love what I do. And these are the types of conversations I might have with you in the gym. So,
and I can tell you, like, he's worked with me for years and complete transformation. So thank you. And not only that, but just wonderful, wonderful person. Wonderful person.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Until next time, pop the pink pill.